Welcome back, you beautiful anomaly. Yeah, you. The one they thought would crumble. The one they bet against. The one they watched with popcorn, waiting for the collapse that never came. I see you. And I need you to understand something right now. Something they're terrified you'll realize. The way you handled that betrayal. That soul-crushing, earth-shattering moment when everything you trusted turned to ash in your hands. You didn't just survive it. You rewrote the entire playbook on what it means to stand back up. You became the lesson they'll study for decades. You became the standard they'll measure themselves against and fail. Every single time. Let me tell you what's really happening right now while you're sitting there, maybe doubting yourself, maybe wondering if you overreacted, maybe questioning if you should have stayed quiet. There are people, thousands of them, maybe millions, who watched you handle that pain. They didn't say anything. They didn't reach out, but they watched. They saw you in that moment when the knife went in, when the person you trusted most twisted it with a smile, when your world turned inside out, and they held their breath. They wanted to see if you'd do what everyone else does. Beg, cry publicly, make a scene. Chase the person who destroyed you, demanding explanations that would never satisfy the wound. But you did something they've never seen before. You went silent. Not the silence of defeat. Not the silence of someone who's been broken beyond repair. No, you went silent like a storm gathering strength. You disappeared from their radar, not because you were hiding, but because you were transforming in a place they couldn't reach. And that silence, it did more damage to their ego than any screaming match ever could. Because silence from someone they hurt means one thing and one thing only. You're done playing their game. You've moved into a different frequency entirely. You're operating on a level they don't have access to anymore. Do you understand what that did to them? Do you see what's happening in their world right now? They expected chaos. They expected you to fall apart, to give them the satisfaction of knowing they still had power over you. They expected you to make them feel important by showing them how much they hurt you. But instead, you gave them nothing. You gave them the most terrifying gift of all. Your absence, your indifference, your complete and utter lack of need for their validation or explanation. And now they're the ones who can't sleep. Now they're the ones refreshing your page. Now they're the ones asking mutual friends about you, pretending they don't care while their voice cracks just slightly. Here's what they'll never admit out loud but whisper to themselves at 3 in the morning. They thought they were teaching you a lesson when they betrayed you. They thought they were showing you your place, reminding you that you weren't as special as you thought, that you were replaceable, that they held all the cards. But what actually happened is this. You learned. You absorbed, you processed, and then you evolved so far beyond their comprehension that they can't even see you anymore. They're still playing checkers with broken pieces while you've left the board entirely and started building empires in dimensions they don't even know exist. And now, right now, there's a whole generation watching you. Not just your friends, not just the people who knew about the betrayal. I'm talking about people you've never met, people scrolling through their pain at 2 in the morning, people who just got stabbed in the back by someone they loved, people who feel like they'll never recover. They're watching how you move now. They're studying your energy. They're reading between the lines of your silence. And do you know what they're learning? They're learning that dignity isn't about being loud. It's about being unreachable. They're learning that strength isn't about revenge. It's about becoming so focused on your own elevation that the person who hurt you becomes irrelevant. You're teaching them something their parents couldn't teach them, something school never covered, something society actively tries to suppress. You're teaching them that you don't need closure from people who poisoned you. You don't need apologies from people who aren't even sorry. You don't need to understand why they did it because their reasons are irrelevant to your healing. You're showing them through your actions, through your silence, through the way you rebuilt yourself without making it a performance, that the most powerful thing you can do after betrayal is simply this. Become undeniable. Become unreachable. Become unrecognizable to the version of yourself that used to tolerate disrespect. Let me paint you a picture of what's really happening in the invisible realm, in the psychological dimension where real power operates. Every person who betrayed you, they're watching your evolution like it's a horror movie they can't turn off. They see you thriving. They see you focused. They see you building. And it's eating them alive, because they were supposed to be your downfall. They were supposed to be the story you tell therapists for years. They were supposed to be the reason you never trusted again, never loved again, never tried again. But instead, you turned their betrayal into fertilizer. You planted it in the soil of your soul and grew something so magnificent that even your enemies have to acknowledge it, even if only to themselves, even if only in those quiet moments when the mask slips and they're forced to confront the truth. The truth is this: you won. Not because you got revenge. Not because you proved them wrong publicly. Not because you got an apology or made them regret it. You won because you refused to let their betrayal define your trajectory. You took the worst thing that could happen to you at that moment, and you used it as a catalyst. You alchemized pain into power. You transmuted betrayal into boundaries. You converted heartbreak into standards so high that most people can't even see the bar anymore. And that's what makes you dangerous now. Not your anger, not your bitterness, your peace, your clarity, your ability to look at what happened and say, "Thank you for showing me what I will never tolerate again," and then walk away without looking back. Do you know how rare that is? Do you understand how many people spend decades stuck in the loop of what happened to them? They tell the story over and over. They relive it. They let it become their identity. The person who got cheated on. The person who got backstabbed. The person who got left. But you refused to let that moment define you. You acknowledged the pain. You felt it fully. You didn't suppress it or pretend it didn't hurt. But then you made a choice. A choice that separated you from 99% of humanity. You chose to let it transform you instead of destroy you. You chose to become someone who could never be betrayed like that again because your discernment became too sharp, your standards too high, your self-respect too solid. Now, let's talk about what you're really doing for the broken people watching you. Because this isn't just about you anymore. This is about every single person who's been gaslit into thinking they're too sensitive. Every person who's been told they're overreacting when they set boundaries. Every person who's been made to feel crazy for having standards. They're looking at you, and they're finally understanding something that society tried to beat out of them. It's okay to walk away. It's okay to cut people off. It's okay to stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. It's okay to choose yourself even when it makes other people uncomfortable. You're showing them that healing doesn't look like forgiveness forced before you're ready. Healing doesn't look like keeping toxic people in your life because they share your bloodline or your history. Healing doesn't look like shrinking yourself to make others feel comfortable about the ways they failed you. Real healing looks like what you did. It looks like going silent and doing the internal work nobody sees. It looks like crying alone and then waking up and doing it again. It looks like setting boundaries that make you feel selfish until you realize they're actually just healthy. It looks like choosing yourself over and over and over until choosing yourself becomes your default setting instead of your rebellion. The people watching you, they needed to see this. They needed to see someone handle betrayal without becoming bitter. They needed to see someone get hurt and not close their heart completely. They needed to see someone lose everything and still find a way to believe in themselves. Because the narrative they've been fed their whole life is that pain changes you for the worse. That betrayal makes you cynical. That heartbreak makes you hard. That trauma makes you broken forever. But you're walking proof that pain can refine you instead of ruin you. That betrayal can sharpen your discernment instead of destroying your faith. That heartbreak can teach you what real love looks like instead of convincing you it doesn't exist. And here's what's really beautiful about what you've done. You didn't perform your healing. You didn't make it a spectacle. You didn't document every stage for likes and validation. You went through the fire privately and emerged publicly transformed. People don't know the nights you couldn't sleep. They don't know the mornings you didn't want to get out of bed. They don't know the moments you almost texted that person, almost went back, almost settled for less because loneliness felt too heavy. They don't know any of that because you kept your healing sacred. You protected your process. And now, what they see is the result. They see someone who's unshakable, someone who's at peace, someone who's thriving. And they can't help but wonder, how did they do it? How did they turn that much pain into that much power? The answer is simple, but not easy. You stopped waiting for external validation of your pain. You stopped needing the person who hurt you to acknowledge what they did. You stopped seeking closure from people who don't even have the emotional capacity to give it. You gave yourself what you were waiting for them to give you. You validated your own pain. You acknowledged your own hurt. You gave yourself permission to walk away without a dramatic exit, without a final conversation, without the closure that never comes from the people who broke you. You became your own hero. You became your own savior. You became the person you needed when you were at your lowest. Let me tell you what's happening in real time right now, this very second, while you're reading these words or hearing this voice. There's someone out there who just got betrayed. Maybe it happened an hour ago. Maybe it happened 5 minutes ago. Their world just shattered. Their trust just broke. Their heart just cracked open. And they're scrolling, searching, desperately looking for something, anything that tells them they're going to survive this. They don't even know what they're looking for. They just know they need hope. They need proof. They need evidence that people survive this level of pain. And don't just survive, but actually thrive afterward. And then they find you. Maybe not you literally. Maybe they don't even know your name. But they find your energy. They find your story. They find the evidence of your transformation, and something in them clicks. Something shifts. They see that you made it through. They see that you're not just okay, you're better than okay. You're flourishing, you're at peace, you're building, you're creating. You're loving yourself in ways the person who betrayed you never could. And that person who just got hurt, they take a breath. Maybe their first real breath since it happened. And they think, maybe, just maybe, I can do this too. Maybe I can survive this. Maybe this isn't the end of my story. Maybe this is just the painful middle part before everything gets better. That's what you're doing right now. That's the ripple effect of your healing. Every time you choose yourself, someone else gets permission to choose themselves. Every time you set a boundary, someone else finds the courage to set theirs. Every time you walk away from what's hurting you, someone else learns that walking away isn't weakness, it's wisdom. You're not just healing yourself. You're healing everyone who's watching you do it. You're breaking generational curses. You're dismantling toxic patterns. You're rewriting the script on what it means to recover from betrayal, with your dignity intact and your spirit unbroken. And the beautiful irony in all of this, the thing that probably keeps the person who betrayed you up at night, is that they thought they were ending your story. They thought they were delivering the final blow. They thought they were the main character in your narrative. But what they actually did was write themselves out of your story completely, while simultaneously making you the main character in everyone else's story about overcoming betrayal. They became a footnote, a minor character, the antagonist who showed up just long enough to reveal your strength, and then faded into irrelevance while you became legendary. Think about that for a second. Really let it sink in. The person who tried to break you actually became the catalyst for your greatest transformation. They pushed you so far down that the only direction left was up. And when you rose higher than you ever would have if they'd never betrayed you in the first place. They gave you the gift of necessity, the necessity to find strength you didn't know you had, the necessity to set standards you'd been too afraid to set, the necessity to choose yourself in ways you'd always chosen others. They thought they were destroying you. They were actually just removing themselves from the path of someone destined for things they could never comprehend. Now I need you to really hear this next part, because this is where most people stumble. This is where the healing gets tested. There will be moments, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, maybe 6 months from now, when you'll doubt everything. You'll wonder if you were too harsh. You'll romanticize the good times and minimize the bad. You'll think about reaching out. You'll convince yourself that maybe you overreacted, maybe they've changed, maybe you should give them another chance. And in those moments, I need you to remember something. The version of you that accepted their betrayal is dead. That person doesn't exist anymore. You can't go back to them even if you wanted to, because you've evolved beyond that frequency. The you that exists now has standards that version of you didn't have. The you that exists now has boundaries that version of you didn't know how to set. The you that exists now has self-respect. That version of you was still learning to build. You can't downgrade yourself back to a version that tolerated disrespect just because loneliness whispers sweet lies in your ear. You can't unlearn what you know now. You can't unsee what you've seen. You can't go back to sleep once you've woken up. And anyone who asks you to, anyone who suggests you're being too harsh or too unforgiving or too rigid, they're not your people. Your people will celebrate your standards. Your people will respect your boundaries. Your people will never ask you to shrink yourself back down to a size that made others comfortable. The people watching you heal, the broken ones, the betrayed ones, the ones who thought they'd never recover, they need you to stay strong in this. They need you to not go back. Because if you go back, they lose hope. If you settle, they learn that pain doesn't really change anything. If you lower your standards, they learn that boundaries don't matter. But if you stay the course, if you keep choosing yourself, if you keep building your life on the foundation of self-respect you've laid, they learn the most important lesson of all. They learn that it's possible. They learn that you can be hurt and still heal. They learn that you can be betrayed and still trust again, just more wisely. They learn that you can have your heart broken and still keep it open, just more carefully. You're their proof. You're their evidence. You're their permission slip. Every time you post something that shows you're thriving, someone takes a screenshot and saves it for the hard days. Every time you share a thought about boundaries or self-respect or knowing your worth, someone writes it down and reads it when they're tempted to go back to what hurt them. Every time you simply exist as the healed version of someone who went through hell, someone else believes that heaven exists on the other side of their hell too. You might not even realize the impact you're having. You might think you're just living your life, but you're not. You're showing others how to live theirs. And here's the thing about becoming that kind of inspiration, that kind of beacon, that kind of standard. You can't do it by being perfect. You can't do it by pretending you never struggle. You can't do it by acting like the healing happened overnight, and now you're this untouchable force who never has bad days. The reason people connect with you, the reason your story resonates, the reason your healing inspires, is because you're real about it. You don't pretend it didn't hurt. You don't act like it was easy. You don't minimize your pain to make others comfortable. You say, yes, it destroyed me. Yes, I thought I'd never recover. Yes, there were moments I wanted to give up, and then I didn't, and here I am. That's the power. That's the magic. That's the medicine. Not the pretending, not the performing, not the fake positivity that denies reality. The raw, honest acknowledgement that it was the hardest thing you've ever been through and you survived it anyway. That's what heals people. That's what gives them hope, because they're not looking for someone who's never been hurt. They're looking for someone who's been hurt just as badly as they have and found a way through it. They're looking for someone who's been in the valley and made it to the mountain. They're looking for someone who's been in the darkness and found the light. And that someone is you. Let's talk about the practical magic of what you've done, because this isn't just spiritual, this isn't just emotional, this is tactical, this is strategic. The way you handled that betrayal, You didn't just protect your heart, you protected your future. You protected your energy. You protected your potential. Think about all the people who stay in toxic situations. Think about all the energy they waste trying to fix people who don't want to be fixed. Think about all the opportunities they miss because they're too busy looking backward instead of forward. Think about all the growth that never happens because they're stuck in cycles with people who keep them small. You broke that cycle. You said no to the pattern. You refused to be one more person who sacrifices their entire life on the altar of someone else's inability to show up correctly. You looked at what was happening, you assessed the cost, and you made a decision that most people are too afraid to make. You chose you. Not in a selfish way, not in a cruel way, but in a survival way. In a "this is my one life and I refuse to waste it on people who don't value me" way. And that decision, that single decision to walk away and not look back, that decision has already changed the entire trajectory of your life.